Text fades in. 2020 Fall CSULB Dance presents Dance Festival Program B.
Closed captioning is available throughout the viewing of this performance, as well as an audio description accessible with the link provided in the description below. Hello and welcome to night 2 of the CSULB Fall Dance Festival. My name is Kaelie Osorio and I'm a senior BFA dance student here at CSULB, as well as a concert director for tonight's performance. I'm a woman with brown hair and green eyes, and I'm wearing a white shirt against a green background. This evening, on behalf of the Senior Seminar Class of 2020, I invite you to enjoy pre-recorded works choreographed and performed by students in the CSULB Department of Dance. Together, the students in Senior Seminar, 20 dance majors, put together this virtual event to create an opportunity for our dance department to connect, choreograph, and perform together while engaged in distance learning this semester. With the help of our wonderful course instructor, Lemme, and our amazing production staff team, Stephanie Lazelbein, Greg Crosby, Kelsey Vidic, Dawn Nichols, and Sylvia Rodriguez.
Our speaker is frozen, and the ASL student interpreter is continuing to spell those listed names.
We've created an incredible virtual night of dance for you all. In tonight's concert, we are showcasing the works of 8 student choreographers: Hernandez, Danny Bird, Tiffany Martinez-Delgado, Jasmyn Hamblin, Keilan Stafford, and Rivka Villanueva. We are also showcasing the works of one faculty member, Lemme. If after viewing this concert, you would like to learn more about the choreographers, their work, or their creative process, please join our panel discussion with them by following the Zoom link provided in the description below after completion of the performance. Tonight, we are also asking that you consider making a $5 donation to the CSULB Dance Student Scholarship Fund by clicking the link also provided in the description box below. Your gift matters, and it will make a positive impact on the lives of our students. We are grateful for any and all contributions, as we realize that these are difficult times. Finally, before we get started, I would like to read a land acknowledgement on behalf of the Department of Dance. CSULB is located on the sacred site of Pavuna. We acknowledge that we are on the land of the Tongva, Gabriela, and the Ahakame Juaneño nations who have lived and continue to live here. We recognize the Tongva, Ahakame nations as the first stewards and the traditional caretakers of this land. We thank them for their strength, perseverance, and resistance. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work and dance on this sacred site and to be reminded of the sacred and spiritual relationship that has always existed here at what we now call California State University, Long Beach. Now, without further ado, please enjoy the show.
Our speaker is frozen, and the ASL student interpreter is continuing to spell those listed names.
Disclaimer: this concert was produced following all CDC guidelines for COVID-19. Any dancer that appears touching or dancing less than 6 feet apart in this festival are members of the same household.
A single hand over dirt is on the screen. This hand gets a fistful of dirt and turns it over. Opening the fingers, dirt begins to ripple down. The hand touches the dirt and begins to create a curved zigzag pattern. Soft guitar music is playing. The screen shifts to show a variety of land. The name Tiffany Martinez-Delgado appears in an open space with dried grass. The name Jasmyn appears in a dirt field with small bushes. The name Isabella Bahamondes appears in a cluster of small yellow flowers. The name Robert Huerta appears in a cluster of cacti. In a close-up image of a dying aloe vera plant, the words "Music by" appear. The name Julio Cesar Oliva appears near purple flowers. The words Taube Brothers appear next to palm trees. The name Lucas Gitano appears next to an old wooden fence. There is a horse and the word cinematography appears. As the camera pans closer to the horse, the names Edu Hernandez, Fernando Hernandez, and Luis Hernandez appear. From a back view, there is a person on top of the horse, and the words Rancho La Merced appear. The camera shifts to reveal the horse's hoof marks in the dirt, and the words "Directed by Edu Hernandez" appear. A worn-out brick path is shown that leads to 4 dancers in front of a white house. They are all dressed differently. The shots shift from the house alone, to palm trees, to a brick well, to a brown window shutter, to an iron gate, to large green plants, to a stone area, and to a tree stump. A dancer wearing a white button shirt with black pants begins a solo. Another dancer moves her legs, creating waves in her bright green dress. Another dancer grabs her navy blue skirt and manipulates it. Another dancer in a black blouse with colorful flowers walks towards the camera. Another dancer has a ceramic jug and is filling it up at the brick well. Another dancer washes a cloth on a washboard. A dancer is on a tree branch and picks a pomegranate to open. The dancer in the black blouse sits in front of the house. She and a dancer swing their arms towards each other, but are separated by the well. A dancer rolls to the floor and performs multiple turns. A dancer executes a high front kick that leads her to curve her body forward. Both the dancers return to the well, still separated by it. All 4 dancers are in front of the house. Close-up shots of each dancer is shown, demonstrating their traditional Mexican-inspired clothing. The layers of the green dress flow swiftly as the dancer turns around herself. The dress flies up as she kicks to the side. She is next to the house. Holding a pomegranate in one hand in front of the tree, the dancer drops his torso and slides his feet. Framed by a brown door, the dancer utilizes a chair to create waves with lace hanging off her black skirt. Dancing in front of a well, a dancer moves freely holding a water jug in one hand. She grabs a cup and pours the water on her head. 2 more dancers move their arms on opposite sides of the well. The navy blue skirt engulfs the dancer's body as she twirls. A high kick to the front covers the dancer's body with the green fabric of her dress. From a side angle, both dancers move towards each other. In a grass space in front of the house, the dancers do jumps and traveling turns, each of their skirts flipping and floating as they move. All 4 dancers are standing at the side of the house as one dancer does a quick turn. One dancer moves her arms and legs in unison on the aged wooden deck on the side of the house. She runs towards the camera, and another dancer comes into view. He bends both elbows and executes fast turns. The camera moves away from him, revealing more of the house and of the wooden deck. The camera turns the corner and focuses on a dancer who frames her face with her hands. As she does this, her dress has ripples. She poses towards the camera, and the camera moves away from her. Another dancer swings her arms like a pendulum. She sways her dress side to side with each movement. She walks towards the camera, and the rest of the dancers enter from the corner to join her. They are all doing different gestures. The dancers have their hands in front of their body and extend them forward in a giving motion. A single snapshot of each dancer appears. All 4 dancers surround the well and begin a unison arm movement. A duet begins in a grass field in front of the house. Another duet on the side of the house. All 4 dancers are in the grass field and begin to move in unison. They end their movement by raising their hand towards the house. There are 2 tall palm trees surrounded by smaller ones. The clouds move across the sky in a time lapse as the leaves on the tree dance in the wind. The sky slowly getting darker. A low, deep beat begins. There's a close-up of the house, the brick well, the side of the house, the moon between the trees, 2 railings, the white pillars and the wooden deck, all during the nighttime. There's spoken text in Spanish. There is a shadow of a dancer. Only his legs are visible. He is barefoot, and he begins to walk. The camera shifts to a shot of the dancer wearing a white shirt and a woven hat. The camera continues to shift between clips of the dancer's feet moving and him circling his arm while wearing the hat. The camera pans out to reveal the dancer is in front of the house. He moves his arms with expressive hands. Running towards the camera, he steps in the direction of the brick well. He drinks water from a cup on the well. Shifting his torso, he moves his arms towards the camera and bangs them in. The dancer walks towards the camera with one palm out. The camera focuses on this one hand. The dancer is now in front of an old gate. He stomps his feet and then slides them, moving the dirt beneath him. He swings his legs, changing the direction of his body. The dancer is at the tree stump. He removes his hat and begins a gestural phrase towards the camera. The camera shifts to the light outside the house. The dancer reaches one hand towards it. The dancer is back in the grass field facing the house as he does a zigzag motion with his hand. The dancer is in front of a tree and begins to manipulate his hat while he moves. The dancer is in front of the house, back towards the camera, and he takes off his hat. The camera shifts to him in front of various locations around the house. Sitting on the wooden deck, the dancer lays his head on the side of the pillar. The camera shifts between the dancer moving on the side of the house and laying his head on the stone-rounded area. The dancer uses a bandana, flicking it around his body as he turns. The dancer is kneeled in front of a stoned area. He begins a gestural phrase. The dancer is in front of the brown door and jumps before embracing himself. The dancer is now sitting in a chair and he runs his palms down his face. He begins the same gestural movement with his palms that he did near the well. The dancer is laying down in the dirt with pomegranates around his body. He reaches his body back, then kicks both legs to come to standing. He reaches to the side before jumping to the ground. He spirals his way up to perform more arm reaches. He uses his entire upper body to execute these reaches. He turns and then falls forward. The dancer is on the wooden deck of the house as he swings both arms fast. He spirals his body down to the floor. There are pomegranates, the washboard, water jug and cup, chair, and his woven hat on both sides of him as he moves. He reaches towards the ceiling, then contracts down. His arms swing to meet and he rolls his head. He falls towards the camera and recovers. He walks towards the camera, and the camera focuses on his open palms. He closes his fingers to make a fist. The camera pans up, showing the top of the house. The camera shifts from the house to the props to the dancer. A hand covers seeds with dirt, moving the dirt around. The screen goes black. The credits begin to roll. The information for these credits can be found in the program descriptor.
A harsh piano note sounds and the piece begins with the title I Am, showing dancers in fierce black outfits standing scattered apart in a vibrant grassy park. We flash quickly between close solo shots of the dancers' faces emerging through nature, and images of the dancers stationary in the open field, but moving their torsos and arms to explore their kinesphere. The solo shots highlight the dancers glowing in the sunlight as they are immersed in and interact with delicate flowers, rough tree bark, and wispy leaves. As a group in the grassy fields, the dancers explore blending through different shapes of their bodies, contrasting between angular and rounded movement. The screen goes black. It cuts to a solo image of a dancer in front of a calm lake with a dark mesh fabric over their face before wiping it down. With the same background, we flash to another dancer creating angled shapes along his body, then switching to a dancer repeating a jagged twist of her torso, to another dancer expanding her arms above her, then rippling them down, before cutting to another dancer melting the outer part of her hands down her face as the music softens. We flash through two more dancers, manipulating their hands as the screen goes black. The music comes back as the dancers are scattered amidst tall, strong trees. We cut through different shots and groups of dancers pulling with bound movement to reach toward the sky with strength and power. This pulling movement progresses and breaks their stationary stance, moving their bodies to travel through the trees. They change directions while moving backward with a focus on their hands. This camera begins to follow them as they continue this pulling movement. It takes them in circular pathways as it progresses through their full body and takes them traveling through the trees. The screen goes black and the music fades. A strong piano chord comes back as we flash to individual shots of the dancers, this time in bright glowing sunlight, vigorously grasping at their earthy, neutral-toned outfits. They are surrounded by tall reeds and grass that has slight movement to it. The music slowly distorts and fades away as we continue to witness the solo movement of the dancers, with a focus on the tense and frenzied action of their hands and the action of pulling to remove pieces of their outfits from themselves. The screen goes black. The music comes back in as we move to a dirt field and see two screens of dancers blended to look as if they're in a duet of muscular bound movement before releasing into swinging loose energy. Another soloist appears spiraling around herself, repeating a tense pulsing motion of her chest. Another blended duet with wide muscular movement before slowly melting their bodies. It cuts to a solo swiftly moving through bent and linear shapes of his arms. We're brought to another blended duet facing their backs to the audience, moving from subtle bound movement to more expansive and sharp releases backward. We cut to another solo shot of a dancer, smoothly articulating her spine in a waving motion to bounce sharply side to side before continuing the flow. Another collage duet appears and two dancers swiftly move in circular pathways, exploring the range of their kinesphere. It cuts to one solo where the dancer extends her arms and legs, then to another solo where the dancer carefully clasps his hands together. We jump to another solo where the dancer repeats chaotically contained movements. It takes this throughout her body and travels her slightly before she moves backward, looking at the audience. The screen goes black and the music fades. The music comes back as we see two solos transparently collaged onto each other to make it appear as if they're dancing together. Another collage duet appears where it looks as if the soloists are supporting themselves against the same tree. We cut back to the first duet where the layering of the solo videos creates a ripple effect in their connection. We then come back to the second duet and they are gently touching the tree, feeling each other's energy and transferring it to one another. One of the dancers drops, dragging down the side of the tree, and the screen goes black while the music cuts out. The music comes back in, and we begin to see flashes of solo shots of the dancers in their fierce black outfits. They explore their individual movement with a prominent pointing gesture and direct focus. All of the dancers' movements have a pulling yet sharp energy to it. They are surrounded by lush green nature in the form of tall trees, reed grass, and flower bushes. One dancer reaches out and lengthens his arm pointing out to flick it upwards. The screen goes black and the music pauses. The strong piano chords come back in as we see the dancers in their neutral-toned outfits in the wide green field. Different screens of the dancers powerfully moving in the field are transparently collaged over each other so that we get a multi-dimensional vision of the dancers. We see bigger, full-body movement that focuses on falling and pulling, before we switch to solo shots of the dancers in the tall grass and reeds. With their backs to the cameras, we see the dancers reverently holding onto their bodies and grabbing their backs with intention. They bask in the sunlight and look upwards, holding on to themselves as they continue their movement, brushing off their clothes and focusing on their hands. The screen goes black. We now see a collage of the dancers running forward with a direct focus, until it is one dancer running with muscular tension. The screen goes black and the music cuts out. I Am flashes on the screen. The music comes back and the credits read Choreography Jasmyn Hamblin in collaboration of the dancers, Director-Editor Jasmyn Hamblin, Videography Jasmyn Hamblin, Emily Ong, Music Lex Prado, Danced by with clips of each dancer, Jasmine Alejos, David Bernal, Jasmyn Hamblin, Eliza Loran, Sam Minifield, Derek Paris, Aisha Reddick. It reads, "Thank you to CSULB Department of Dance." The title displays This Is What I See, choreography by Tiffany Martinez-Delgado. The dreamlike music begins and the dancer walks out to stare into the distance. Behind her there is a projection of a sketched figure that has their head leaning to the side on both of their hands against a pastel pink and purple background. The dancer moves to observe the artwork as another sketched figure appears. The sketched figure's body is facing away from us with one arm reaching to the side. The dancer starts her movement reaching up towards the sky as another sketched figure appears. She reaches her arms and brings them to her head to fluidly turn herself around to face the audience, melting to lean her head on her hands. She shifts to cover her eyes with one hand as the other is on her head and sways forward and backward. She rotates around herself, morphing into the different shapes of the sketched figures. She throws her arms out and we switch to a side angle before moving back to the front angle. There are new sketched figures that continue to subtly shift as the dancer fluidly transitions between mimicking the art and free-flowing movement. Elongating her arms, she traverses between the shadows outside of the projection and where the art is projected. We are taken back to the side angle as we see her movement continue before transferring back to the front angle as she opens her arms to us. She moves backwards and circles her elbows before elongating her arms to the diagonal and spinning around herself. The dancer moves her arms in a wave-like motion before breaking them apart softly. The music begins to pick up as the dancer repeatedly waves her full body, returning to the gestures of the sketched figures, but blending them together. Behind her, the sketched figures start layering on top of each other to create a morphed image, as paint strokes of lavender, rose pink, and white are added. The dancer moves to pause, staring longingly at the right corner. before she continues with full expansive movement. She travels in and out of the shadows to come back in the light of the projector to wipe down her arm before repeating a swaying movement with her hands over her face. We shift between a new side angle that highlights the dancer's silhouette from the projector and the front angle as the music softens. The sketched figures appear layered in pairs as the dancer circles her arms forward. She spins around herself and releases back as the music picks up with heavier drum noises. The projection becomes one full and deep purple-pink color as we swiftly move between different angles of the dancer, reaching her limbs to the farthest corners of the room. The projection shows a multitude of paint strokes in purple, pink, and white being brushed smoothly across and splotched quickly. We chaotically move through different angles of the dancer, moving fully and fluidly, replicating the shapes of the sketched figures. We pause at one angle that focuses on the silhouette of the dancer as she repeats her gestural movement without any of the sketched figures behind her. It is now as if she is the artwork displayed. We move back to shifting between angles of the dancers with the sketched artwork behind her. The paint strokes of the artwork display a fuller and brighter color. We now transition to angles of the dancer that only focus on her shadow alongside the sketched artwork. This creates a more collaborative picture between her and the art. She brings in the shapes of the artwork and transcribes them onto her. The dancer faces us to repeat her movement before staring longingly at the corner. As the music comes down from the climax, the dancer turns to face the back with the full picture of the sketched figures layered over each other. It transitions to the full artwork alone and slowly disappears with paint strokes of pastel pink purpling. The screen fades to black as the end credits appear with the main title, crediting choreography by Tiffany, Martinez-Delgado, editing and filming by Eric Cruz, art by Jasmyn Hamblin, and music by Lex Prado. The title reads Rooms, directed by Rivka Villanueva in collaboration with dancers. We see 5 different screens that are collaged together, showcasing different empty rooms. The music is soft and mysterious, and we hear a staticky voice before the music's underlying beat comes in with echoing vocals. The dancers begin to enter from outside their screen frame, stretching one limb at a time. 3 dancers continue moving and exploring the surfaces of the objects in their homes, such as a couch, door frame, and ballet bar. 2 more dancers begin to enter in and explore the surfaces of their rooms as well, opening and closing a door, falling onto a couch, while the other dancers begin to move freely in their open space of their room. All of the dancers begin to move in their open space, repeating gestures of their arms with a pulling motion. They continue this movement with a vigorous energy, taking time to circle their head and release backwards with their arms forward. 2 dancers begin to trickle out of frame, and their screens start to disappear, leaving a trio of dancers. The trio explores their own extended movement before one of the dancers exits the screen frame. This leaves a duet on the screen. Both of the dancers continue to play with movement that spirals and rebounds. The dancer on the left contrasts wavy and extended movement, while the dancer on the right incorporates floorwork and balances upside down on her hands. The dancers in the duet continue their movement with a circular pattern, repeating their phrases facing different directions. One dancer continues to bounce her legs up and down before extending one leg out and arching her back. The other dancer begins to circle her arms around and release her back to move her backwards before extending her leg forward. Both of the dancers continue to move with a waving yet chaotic energy, one staying stationary and the other vigorously traveling around her space. They continue this movement to repeat as one dancer waves through her body and creates more sustained movement, while the other dancer stays stationary and focuses on gestures of her arms. The dancer on the left slowly begins to exit the frame and disappears, leaving one dancer finishing as she circles her head and extends her leg back before she rolls to the floor and then exits underneath her ballet bar as the music fades out. A more somber piece of music begins as a soloist walks into the frame. She reaches her leg out in a bent position and falls towards it, landing on the floor. The dancer continues to move fluidly on the floor to pause laying down, crawling her hand across the floor before crawling it along her side as her body vigorously comes to spoon her leg into a kneeling position. She stares above her slowly before convulsing into her chest and holding her head with a tactile sense to roll and stand up. She wipes her hand on the floor before she holds her chin with her hand and releases to arch her back, and her hands circle up. She draws circles with her head to leap sideways as the guitar sounds grow stronger. The dancer balances as she fluidly moves her arms and legs as if she is floating in water. She drags her leg to extend forward and then backward, and then forward as she releases and arches her back. The movement grows with tension and struggle as she repeatedly pulls her leg and moves backward. She moves to the floor and rolls onto her shoulders to bicycle her legs slowly. She swiftly stands up before falling down once more and laying on the ground. The solo screen disappears and a duet emerges as the dancers enter the screen frame, isolating and waving their arms and legs. One dancer completely comes into frame as the other dancer continues to isolate their arms and legs before fully entering. The dancers shift their body into expansive positions, balancing on one leg as the other floats in the air. The dancers continue spiraling around themselves. One dancer swiftly moves to the floor while the other dancer waves through their body. This duet shows contrasting movement between free, expansive movement and stationary, bound movement. Both dancers join back together, repeating movement that stretches their arms outward. They continue with dropping motion as one arches and releases, and the other continues with a more chaotic motion of her arms. While they are moving different and individually, both dancers move softly with a circular and wavy energy. They both begin to release their arms and legs as one goes to the floor, and the other slowly moves and circles her arms around her head and lifts up. The dancer on the right waves her body as she slowly gets closer to the camera before she slowly exits the screen and disappears as the music fades out. A soloist remains, transferring a wavy energy throughout her body as we hear distant voices of people in the background. She rotates around her room and she extends her legs going side to side with bent and straight angles. She continues to rotate around herself in her room and then arches back and releases and waves through her body. She then stands up before she pulses her body to fully stand up as the beginning mysterious music comes back. The beat of the music comes in and we flash between different screens of duets and soloists. The duet of repetitive, contrasting movement comes back, and the original somber soloist comes back as well with a vigorous motion. The duet comes back as one is more stationary and the other one is more fuller movement, and then a soloist appears as she continues to spiral and rotate around herself with a circularity. Another soloist appears as she explores stationary movement with intention, and another soloist jumps in and rebounds throughout her body, jumping back and forth and extending her limbs. Another soloist comes in and she travels throughout her space, incorporating floor work and extending her arms with a sharper movement. The 5 screens come back as we see different energies, slow and sustained and quick and chaotic. They explore their space, rolling fluidly between the floor and circular patterns between their bodies and arms. They begin to trickle out slowly as the rooms begin to empty, leaving one dancer remaining. She then spins out to leave 5 empty rooms on the screen. The credits begin flashing, crediting her dancers, the music sources, and special thanks to those that have helped contribute. The screen is all white. It fades so we see a black male dancer wearing all white, standing in the center of white draped walls, as if he is in an art gallery. Distorted, droning vocal sounds come in as we cut to a closer angle of hands pulsing out lightly. We cut back to a full body angle as the dancer breathes his body upward, undulating through his spine with soft muscular stops. We come closer to see his hands pulse before we cut to a shot angled from below of the dancer twisting and reaching his arm to bend it in front of him. He continues his soft muscular stops with an underlying rhythm, creeping his hands up before releasing them to observe them and glide them apart. We come in and out of a new distorted vocal track that sounds fragmented and manipulated, and quickly move to a front full body angle as the dancer explores level changes and rotation with a subtle intensity. He moves to cover his face with one hand as his arm lengthens out. The sound score begins to fade into a low mechanical rumble. We cut to another angle from below as the dancer studies the intricacies of his hands coming together, and quickly to the front angle of the dancer, statuesque and reaching his arm to the side. His hands curl in softly before dropping with tension. He waves and traces his hands up and then down his leg to turn himself around. He dives his head down and then reaches his arms before circling them over his head. We cut to an angle above him as the sound score fades out. He sits in a bent position, softly tracing his hand on the floor, and shifts into a new position. The sound score comes back in with an echoing dissonance, and the dancer glides through their movement phrases, experimenting with small bursts of sharper movement to fluidly transition to the floor. He continues to rotate around himself to stand up. He looks around, then jerks his head forward with an intense stare. He spins to balance on one leg in a bent form, and then pauses in this shape. He lengthens his leg behind him before rebounding it to pull it forward. He brings his arms up and tugs them down before reaching up again and gently releasing to arch his back. He swipes his arm to take him back to the floor and reach one arm out. The sound score cuts out. At an angle above him, he wipes and paints his body along the floor as we hear new vocal sounds that are fragmented and slowed down. We flash between an angle in front of him and an angle below him to come back to the front angle. He stands up from the floor with clear stops, then continues his movement with a specific focus on leading with his arms and hands. Another flash of him spinning around appears before it cuts back to the front angle and the sound cuts out. He begins exploring a bouncier movement quality, waving it through his body. With the shift in energy, he still incorporates sharper edges to his movement. The camera continues to flash quickly through different angles of the dancer, creating a chaotic energy within the viewer. The sound score gains intensity as the distorted sounds are amplified. It continues to build, flashing through different screens, until it comes to a resolution and we see a closer angle of the dancer slowly moving, and then supporting himself along the floor.
In terms of like a vertical
We continue to see closer angles of the dancer reaching his arms out and focusing directly forward, and different angles of him on the floor, painting his body in a slow fashion.
And also there's
The screen fades to white.
value in everything. And that's what I'm figuring out now. I feel like also I missed out on so much. Now that's where I am.
The title appears low art, as I see it. The credits read, conceptualized by Keilan Stafford, danced by Keilan Stafford, sound composed by Keilan Stafford, filmed by Maddie Mora, edited by Keilan Stafford, special thanks to Kaelie Osorio and Rebecca Lemme.
The words Severance, Jose Argueta appear in a white font as music begins. The screen goes black. A crack in concrete is shown. The camera pans up to reveal two dancers in suits in a dam-like space. One dancer is wearing an all-black suit while the other dancer is in a gray suit. They both have black shoes. The dancers are far apart. They begin to move around each other by rolling on the floor, expanding their limbs, and reaching. As distorted music plays, the dancers look as if they are yearning to touch. They make eye contact and walk. The camera angle shifts to show them from a diagonal. They continue to move vigorously and at times in unison. The camera angle shifts to show both dancers circle their arms. One dancer is standing while the other is low. Both fling their limbs. The dancer on the ground rises as the dancer standing kicks. They begin a unison phrase, turning, scooping, and reaching their body. The dancers reach towards each other with one hand before turning away from each other. They make eye contact and begin to walk. They maintain this eye contact as their walk transforms into a run. The run subsides and they start to dance while facing each other. There is distance between them, but it seems small as both dancers maintain strong eye contact. They continue to do movements towards each other, legs flying, arms reaching, making their suits have many creases. The dancers walk away from each other, creating even more distance between them. Facing each other, they reach their arms to the side and their chest fills with air. This air takes them forward. The screen goes black, softer music begins. The screen has a blue tint and there is a close-up of a gray pipe below the dancer's diaphragm. The dancer in gray has a black mask and the dancer in black has a gray mask. They roll on the floor while holding onto the end of the pipe. They move the pipe between the two, keeping contact with it as they move their legs and upper body. They move the pipe from their hands to their shoulders, between the neck, and under their arms. One dancer holds the pipe as she lifts her leg. Another dancer takes the pipe and begins a solo with it. The dancer twists the pipe around his body, letting it spin, having total control of it. The angle switches. We see the pipe twirl in the air and the dancer catches it. He throws the pipe over to the other dancer. She moves the pipe behind her and loops her leg over it. She slides the pipe on the floor into the dancer's foot. She places the pipe in the center of her foot and they begin to move their feet while the pipe is in the middle. We see a close-up of a dancer as she turns and rolls back towards the floor. The camera shifts to the other dancer finishing the roll into a forward roll to standing. They begin a unison phrase, filled with moving legs, dropping torsos, and arm reaches. The dancer brings the pipe back to the center of their bodies. Both holding on with their gloved hands, they turn away from each other. They make eye contact and drop the pipe. The screen has a light green tint and the music shifts. One dancer is now wearing a black long sleeve, gloves, and a gray mask. The camera shifts to show the other dancer in a gray long sleeve with a gray mask as he peels off to reveal a black mask. Both dancers are on the side of the dam and reach towards each other. The camera shifts between both dancers as they push their arms and do slight jumps. One dancer is facing the wall and we see his back. He has one hand on the wall and begins to shift his body to make contact. The other dancer is at a wall where the paint is chipping. She keeps contact and kicks her leg back. The first dancer slides both his legs away from the wall, but returns to touch it with both hands. The second dancer is shown from the side. She almost touches the wall, but slowly peels off her gray mask, revealing her bare face towards the wall. Both dancers walk past their wall with one gloved hand out and with no mask. The screen shifts to show both dancers facing each other. They begin a crisp unison movement. The music has accents that are highlighted with their movement. The movement is angular and weighted. Both the dancers take heavy, low steps towards the camera. A dancer begins a solo. She throws her torso, moves her arms expansively, and circles her head while holding it. The other dancer runs around her. The camera shifts between the dancer running and the dancer doing her solo. They begin a phrase in place with turns, low lunges, high leg kicks, and expressive hands. There is great distance between them. One dancer moves his body carefully on the ground, shifting his weight between both legs. They spin to face each other, reaching their arms to the side. The pipe is back between the two. They look at each other and begin descent to the floor while holding the pipe. The music stops. The dancer grabs the pipe and has it interweaved with her arms. Very low music begins. Her gray mask is back on as she moves with the pipe behind her neck. She moves her leg while moving the pipe around her body. She is back in her gray suit and black mask, guiding the pipe around her. She is in front of the chipped wall in her black mask. We see the back of a shoulder of the dancer as he removes one mask. He's looking at the other dancer. She is in a black long sleeve with a gray mask and the pipe. Camera shifts to her back in a gray suit with a black mask. The dancer is gazing at her while removing his mask. Shifts back to the back of the dancer's shoulder as he walks towards the dancer. Screen goes black. The credits begin to roll. The information regarding these credits can be found in our program descriptor.
The screen is black as a long string note plays. In a flash, we see a light bulb and hear a breath before the screen reads in/space/s. In black and white coloring, we see a flash of an empty hallway to a black screen. Hands gently tracing a doorway to a black screen. Movement on a ladder to a black screen. An empty couch with a reflection of light, now with a dancer draped along the side of its arm. We move to witness from a bird's eye view another dancer stretching her body before carefully crawling her hands up the frame. It quickly cuts to a dancer falling through their door frame to lean his head back on the door. We hear him pull a light switch, combining both the composed sound score with the natural sound of the dancer's environment. He explores the extension of his arms above him with a direct focus and attention on his hands. Reaching up, it blends to another dancer's hands gliding up the shower wall. There is a sensitivity to how she places her body parts against the glass. She manipulates the sliding door with her hands, feet, and arms, and softens against the shower walls. She moves around her shower to support herself on its frame, bicycling her legs. It cuts to a narrow hallway where another dancer is molding herself to its door frame and walls around her before dropping suddenly to the floor. We see flashes of the dancer feeling the walls, then catch a glimpse of her face peeking from above. Supporting herself on the wall with her head, she spirals around herself to use her hands to bounce between the two walls, waving her body as if it's pushed by a current. Hands peek out from a new space, and we see a side profile of the dancer's face, and fingers fold over the shelves. Then from another angle, we see hands and feet grasping the front edges. The dancer investigates the different areas of the box shelves, experimenting with different body parts being delicately placed and reversed out of the boxes. Fingers and feet trace the edges. It cuts to a new dancer with a cushioned chair. She waves her body on top of the chair, then pushes herself to collapse to the floor. We see her face lying close to the camera before pulling away with a linger. We see the dancer's image in the mirror as it transitions to seeing new dancer's reflection in another space. We see the dancer's full body lean into the frame of the camera, with the image of her reflection behind her. A soft string plucking begins as the dancer sits and looks at her reflection, moving us to a new angle, looking up at this duet between her reflection and herself. Her arms curiously trace the angles of the mirror and mimic the shapes as she moves away from the mirror, then grasps the mirror again. She slowly releases to look down at the audience, and then moves her arms in a wiping motion before we cut to flashes of the dancer in different angles of her room. She physically interacts with the ceiling and the tapestry on her wall. She looks down, and we cut to another dancer staring calmly upside down, draped along the edges of her wooden stairs. Legs, feet, arms, and hands intertwine themselves through the bars of the railing, and we flash through various angles of the dancer, molding her body to the hard architecture of the stairs. She lifts her legs with a sense of weightlessness, then spirals her body smoothly down the stairs. She moves to paint her foot along the floor as another dancer twists her body to fall as she holds the metal bars of her railing. We see her foot curving to wrap around the bar of the railing, and they slide up and down as if they are hands. She continues to play with falling and traversing body parts through the railing. She releases and circles her upper back as she moves along either side of the railing. We see a new dancer hanging her body through a dark wooden ladder. We quickly switch between a side angle of the dancer on a ladder against the bookshelf and an angle underneath her. A deeper plucking sound comes in as we see the dancer slowly rotate herself around. We get glimpses of her face peeking through to look at us. And she hangs her arms as we hear viola strums. She grabs her leg and climbs back up before looking at us, and we see a new dancer begin to peek his head out over a wooden table. He slides his body down and crawls underneath the table before climbing back up to drop his arms. We flash to him underneath the table with his legs up, making it look as if his hands are having a conversation. He moves back underneath the table and stares at the audience. He crawls forward and pauses before crawling back to crawl up onto the table where we only see the shadow of his feet reflected on a surface. We hear a gentle knocking sound and move to a new dancer with his head against a plywood surface, listening. Curious, he knocks on the surface with his palm. We then flash to an upside-down angle of him swiftly flipping through the pages of a book. Then continue to flash to different angles of him exploring crates in his space and looking toward the audience. We shift to another angle of him reading as we hear a new melody of plucking and elongated bowing. He examines a string, supports himself on his hands upside down, and leans his head back down to knock harder on the surface. We see more flashes of the dancer playing with the crates and book before we get the image of his foot wiping across the front of the camera. We move to another dancer who wipes his foot across as well. In his narrow hallway, there is a light bulb above him as he twists his body. From a new angle, we see quick flashes of his face, himself against the wall, and himself climbing up with his feet supported by the two walls. He pushes himself against the wall, creating arch shapes, and get a short glimpse of a new dancer before we're moving back to him. We see the new dancer as she looks down at the audience and flash between angles of her outdoor staircase from afar and closer shots below her. She moves with a swiftness, spiraling her body before gently walking backward and looking out. We see an outtake shot of her camera recording her, before returning to witness her exploring the length and float of her limbs. We cut to another dancer exploring the space of her laundry area. From the ceiling, we see her leaning and twisting her body before we move to a shot of her empty space. She begins to crawl in slowly, and we flash between her movement on top of the laundry machines. We move to another space where she is looking and breathing in and out. We continue to see different glimpses of her movement as she crawls out of the space and slides off of the machine. We move to a new space with an open window and windowsill. A dancer's hand slowly glides along the wall to grab the edge. We flash through different angles of the dancer, carefully and curiously examining the window. She pulls it, presses her hands against it, and even uses her feet to manipulate it. She climbs up and puts her torso through the window, looking out to the streets. We see her arcing and waving her body before moving to a new space. There is a reflection of light cast in the space with a couch and a windowsill. A dancer traces her hands along the back of the couch with a tactile touch, leaning and spiraling her head around it. We move to a new angle of the dancer, feeling the surface of the wall and door before moving back to the first angle. She climbs up the couch to the windowsill, leans sideways on the couch, and moves her hand gently around her face with a reverent quality. She lunges against the windowsill, and we move to see her staring fiercely at the camera as she smoothly lengthens her body and sits down. She waves her body and the screen goes black. We flash to an empty closet and then see a foot peek its way through. Carefully waving into the space, the dancer unfolds her body. And then we flash to different angles of her creating bent shapes in the space. We flash between many different clips of the dancer from a front angle and an angle above. She contrasts quick pulsing energy with slow and sustained movement. She seems to defy gravity as she uses the floor and door to support her body upside down. She looks up with a direct intention as she begins to rub her face against the door. We quickly flash to different dancers feeling their space with tactility before we see one final dancer clicking on and off a light. As he continues to pull the light switch, he begins to slowly close the door, staring at the camera with a longingness until the door is fully closed. We hear a breath as in/space/es flashes. The credits continue. Direction, Rebecca Lemme. Music, Elizabeth Baba. Editing, Rebecca Lemme. Costume/styling, Rebecca Lemme in collaboration with Teresa Rosaclina's Elizabeth Smith. Movement performance and order of appearance with clips of each dancer. Sam Minifield, Maggie Doty, Now Aizawa. Kaelie Osorio. Teresa Rosaclina's. Danny Bird. Brianna Vasquez-Brosnan, Gabriela Sanchez, Rivka Villanueva, Jocelyn Magana, Brianna O'Neill, Eduardo Hernandez, Robert Huerta, Derek Paris, Elizabeth Smith, Clara Vigil, Natalie Pert. It then says, with respect and admiration for the incredible resiliency of the class of 2021, to a quote reading, "What I want in my life is to be dazzled, to cast aside the facts and maybe even float a little above this difficult world. Mary Oliver." Special thanks, CSULB Department of Dance, Gregory R. Crosby, Fall Dance Festival Production Team, copyright 2020, Rebecca Lemme, RebeccaLemme.com.
And that concludes our show. Hello, my name is Gabby Sanchez, pronouns she, her, hers. I am a senior dance BFA, the contract coordinator, and production assistant for the concert. Image description. I am a Mexican-American woman with long, dark, curly brown hair, with light makeup and dark nude lipstick. I am wearing long gold dangling earrings with a clear crystal hanging on the ends, with a dark olive green colored mock neck dress. My background is a white wall. On behalf of the senior seminar class, I want to thank you all for attending tonight's concert. I also want to take a moment to thank everyone who made this concert possible. First and foremost, I want to thank the faculty and staff who helped guide our class through the production of this concert, the Carpenter Center for their help with advertising, the choreographers and dancers for their amazing work, and the family and friends who tuned in to support the choreographers and performers tonight. I want to give a special thank you to the ASL department at CSULB and the student interpreters who made tonight's concert accessible. Last but not least, I want to thank our incredible course instructor, Rebecca Lemme, who helped support our class throughout the entire process. If you would like to continue supporting the choreographers and dancers showcased in this concert, please consider making a donation to the CSULB Dance Student Scholarship Fund by clicking on the link in the description box below. Although we recommended a $5 donation, we are grateful for any and all contributions. Finally, make sure to stick around for our Zoom panel discussion. The link to that is also included in the description box below. During this discussion, you can learn more about the choreographers and their processes. You will also have the opportunity to learn more about their work. This panel discussion will have ASL student interpreters from the CSULB Senior ASL cohort. Once again, thank you so much for attending tonight's concert and have a great rest of your evening.
Special thanks to CSULB Department of Dance, CODA, the ASL Department, Senior Cohort at CSULB, the Senior Seminar Production Team, the CSULB Dance Faculty and Staff, Gregory R. Crosby, Stephanie Loslobin, Kelsey Vidic, Don Nichols, Rebecca Lemme, the Arts Council for Long Beach, the Carpenter Center, and the Fall Dance Festival choreographers, collaborators, and dancers.